Hi, I'm with David Baker, and he is a coach at St. Vrain Valley Public Schools. David, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm David. I'm a clinical professor and instructional learning coach in the St. Vrain Valley School District, and I work primarily with first-year teachers as they're beginning their practice. As I also work with people in their first 3 years who are beginning a master's program at the University of Colorado Boulder, and also work with mentors and pre-service teachers in our district. So I'm working with teachers in many ways when they're starting their careers.
Excellent. Thank you. And thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
Thank you.
How long exactly have you been using video with the folks that you're working with?
Well, this is our 4th year in the district of using Athena. And what we've noticed is we're really starting to change and use video more with greater width of practice. We started out with just one target group and really said, hey, let's learn how to use it as coaches, because coaching through video, and we're like, well, how will this tool really work? And so that first year was really experimenting and learning what the tool can do. And now we're using it with many, many more groups of teachers, using it with still our first year teachers. We're using it with our novice 2, or teachers that have 1 or 2 years experience. We have special educators using it. We have schools using it for building level professional learning. We're using it in a variety of ways, and that's been really exciting.
Yeah, no, that's great that so many people in the organization are using it. How do you know on your end that the teachers, and it sounds like the coaches and other professionals as well who are using video, how do you know that not only they're enjoying the platform, but they're getting value out of it?
Well, first of all, we started recording ourselves as we're coaching, and we watched each other as coaches. And so I can record myself, watch myself coach, and think about, what was my intent? Am I meeting that intent? Did I help move that person's thinking? And we did that with each other to kind of learn the program in a way that was the platform in a way that's safe.
Right.
But it started out that very first year I had a teacher, and great young teacher, but he had that infamous class right after lunch.
Yeah.
And those kids would come in and they just were struggling getting started. And it was the only time it happened, and he wasn't sure what was going on. So I sitting in there and had my iPad out, and I just said, all right, because he kept saying, how do I get him to start better? And it's hard to give, I didn't want to just give an answer. So I got out my iPad and I took a video, and we loaded it into Edthena, and it took 12 minutes worth of video from when he started class until when the kids actually were kind of doing what he wanted them to do. And we started watching. We got about 2 minutes in, and he said, did that really happen? Well, looks like it happened. And we made it 4 minutes in, and he said, we got to stop. I said, okay. I said, so what do you want? And we started typing. We went back to those 4 minutes. He started typing. I started typing, gave him a chance to reflect. And then all of a sudden we started talking, and he set some goals. And it went from those kids right after lunch being just out of control for 12 minutes. Then we did that same group once a week for a month. I'd walk in that same period and I'd videotape the exact same chunk. And we watched the change over time. It got to the point where it was less than a minute from when those kids walked in the door to when they had grouped themselves, they were seated, and they were actively engaged. And it was totally due because he saw it, he chose what he wanted to do, and he knew what the measures were going to look like because he could see what it looked like in his class. And it wasn't just, hey, let's talk about it. He saw it. And that was when I was like, video is powerful.
Right. And it sounds like the key there was him being able to see for himself what he needed to adjust. And maybe it was the case that he just couldn't sort of visualize it without it on video. Go ahead.
There was the kid who was in the back of the room, and he said, okay, move to your seats for the groups. And the kid walked across 3 desks to get over there. And he was like, did that happen? I'm like, yeah. I said, what do you want it to look like? But when he saw it, he could visualize the change he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a script in his head of what, gee, this is what I said, this is what I did.
Right.
But that script was disconnected from the reality that he was seeing, and he was too busy trying to do what he thought was going to happen, not what was really happening. And that video was the transition there.
Right. That's awesome. Do you find that to be true in your work with, say, coaches or like principals, assistant principals on the platform? Do they have that same kind of like aha moment when they watch themselves?
The fun thing is we've got a middle school that one of our other coaches is working with that's using Edthena as a staff-wide PD, and they've identified we really want to work on engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started that classroom, that whole building-wide conversation about what does engagement look like? How are we engaging our students? I can watch myself, but I can also watch the person down the hall that we always teach at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And principals are noticing that they're getting more clear, that they're starting to have more sophistication of observing, because they can see 20 classrooms all in a few shots.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our big ahas was nobody is watching 40 minutes of video. We've got people that are watching 5 minutes, 7 minutes. But they're watching with such focus and intent that, yeah, there's some people that go on and watch the rest, but that key learning and that change is happening in those first minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they may watch it 2 or 3 times and say, oh.
Right.
But that's been really powerful. I'm noticing principals are really liking it because teachers and principals they see the same thing.
Right.
Not the principal sitting in the back of the room and they see one thing, and the teachers in the front of the room and they see something different. You're sitting down talking about, what do I notice? What do I see the students doing? What do I hear?
Right.
Those are great conversations.
So with both the, would you say, and feel free to add on to this too, that the reflection piece that video makes possible, would you say that as well as sort of providing the baseline level of evidence that both, coaches and teachers can look at, would you say that those are 2 of the biggest benefits of using video in your mind? Are there any others that come to your mind as like super important like that?
Well, I think that baseline, because it's what is going on, is absolutely vital. Because when you see it, you can't argue with, oh, gee, the kid just walked across 3 desks.
Right. Video doesn't lie.
The video doesn't lie. And I might have been looking at the kid over here, and the kid walked over on the other side of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it helps with awareness, and I'm really seeing with my teachers, and I had a group, and we're just starting November, and their 7th video post is due tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I meet with this group of teachers, they always have video, and that's how we start every one of these classes, is with 10 to 15 minutes of watching. But one of the things we really learned is the intentionality piece. And so you asked, what's that other piece?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just watching my video, because it's asking teachers to say, the key thing that I want you to watch for is, or what I'm hoping you're going to see is, or what my goal was. Because if they're aware of what they're trying to do, then you can really give targeted feedback. Otherwise, it's my opinion on your work.
Mm-hmm.
So that coaching piece about what are you trying to do? What do you hope to see? What do you hope to hear? Those type questions is really powerful, because then the teacher is watching and you're watching with the same purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just me as a person who's taught for 25 years looking at saying, well, I do this differently, because then it's me telling.
Right.
And so when we started with all of my master's teachers, with them saying, well, our goal, our general assignment or general area of investigation was, how are we using questioning in our classroom? Well, it looks different in a math classroom versus a social studies classroom, high school versus middle school versus elementary. Mm-hmm. And so we take a minute or 2 as we're starting this, as we do the video work, but we're also doing face-to-face at the same time. Our teachers circle around, and we could do this through an investigation if we weren't together.
Right.
But the people say, my goal was blank, and I hope you're going to see blank. It's 2 sentences. It's 30 seconds a person. Mm-hmm. But they're able to say what they're looking for, and the level of feedback and the insights that people are having is gone up because of that level of intention.
Mm.
So I think being very intent about what we're doing is really, really important.
Got it. And would you say then that video, just even using this year as an example, would you say that video has increased your teachers' ability to more purposefully sort of focus on what their goals are in improving, or what they want to really focus their feedback on in their video?
Absolutely. I've got two teachers that they are doing an action research together, and
Oh, wow.
they're looking at Algebra 2, and the question was, how can we develop more engaging lessons that for Algebra 2 students and help them be really reflect deeply on the content.
Mm-hmm.
These guys are using video to look at, how do we know the kids are engaged? What does it sound like when the kids are engaged?
Mm-hmm.
And what it's allowing them to do is both share the classroom experience with each other. And so they may target the first 5 or 10 minutes of work,
Mm-hmm.
or what kind of questions are the students asking. And so this year I'm really noticing that video has raised the level. Even had these guys, they were talking the other day, and the one teacher was getting ready to do an explanation at the board, and he asked a question, and they were solving a system of equations, and he asked a question, and there's a girl in the back of the room, and she raises her hand. Well, he missed the hand because it kind of in his blind spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so he jumps into his answer. Well, the class, instead of doing anything else, all of a sudden they're like, dude, did you see her hand? Because her hand just did one of these, kind of snaked out.
Uh-huh.
And what he said was great. His teaching was on point as far as content. What he missed was what was happening with the students in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, I said to the guys, I said, so how is using Athena changing what you're doing? And they said, well, early on, we were worried about, are we doing the math right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing these little things right? And they said, now we're watching the kids we know what we're doing now better. So we're starting to watch the kids for how does what we're doing impact them? So now they're almost not videotaping themselves at all. They're videotaping the kids. They can hear themselves. They know what the lesson is. They're looking now, rather than, did I teach this right, to how do I know I taught it because of what the kids are doing? And that's a much more sophisticated inquiry.
Definitely. And that's great to hear that the progression, you've noticed that all just in the couple of months that you've been working with this teacher just this year. It's incredible.
They're doing great.
That's awesome. Okay, a couple more questions here. Would you recommend, thinking about even just this year, your work with teachers, would you recommend that other instructional coaches implement video as a key component of their work with teachers?
Absolutely. And I love it, because if there's a teacher that I can't get into a certain period and they want feedback on a kid, a group of kids, a lesson, a skill, I just say to them, videotape it, put it in Athena. And the app has been the greatest part of that. They just hit the app, they load it up, they target what it is, and they send it to me, and they say, David, I'd like another opinion on
Mm-hmm.
blank. And I'll turn around, and the nice thing is, rather than me going through and saying, well, you did this well, what about this? I'm able to do the coaching questions, send it to them, and then using the dialogue down below, we can have a fairly in-depth coaching conversation, or I can plant some seeds until we come face to face. Video has been so good because it's helping them see their own practice, not just their practice through my eyes.
Right. So it sounds like it not only helps teachers sort of take ownership of their development, more purposefully think about their practice, but it also makes your life as a coach sort of easier, it sounds like.
I love it. The hard part is, a lot of times I'm like, I want to coach on these other things as well. And I've just had to let go and say, I'm going to coach on those key things. One, what they're ready for,
Mm-hmm.
and two, what they're asking for. I know that we're going to come to those other areas.
Right.
And if they don't, I can always plant that seed later. Let's come back to this and talk about it in a new way.
Right. Right.
But it's all the first person I talked to is that really learned to change his management. At the end of the year in April, we sat down and we looked back at that very first lesson that
Mm-hmm.
started the whole thing, and we watched just snippets of those first ones of every day of those 4 times through the month. And I said, so how do you know you've grown? Well, video gave us the ability to look back over time. And for him, it wasn't about me saying, look at how much you've grown. I asked the question.
Right.
And we just sampled the 4 videos, and he was able to tell me how he's grown. He's now working with high school students that are struggling learners, and he's doing a phenomenal job with them because he has a new awareness of what do kids who are distracted look like.
Right. And that's incredible. Thank you, David, so much again for sharing your time with us today. One last question. You have any advice to other instructional coaches out there who are thinking about video but maybe aren't sure?
My advice would be try it. Try it with somebody that's safe. Try it with somebody who's being successful now. And learn how to do it. It's scary to start something the first time with somebody who's struggling. So practice with it yourself. It's hard to videotape yourself because you're like, oh, do I really sound like that? Or did I look like that? And it's like, oh,
right.
But really just enjoy. It's given me a new perspective on how I do my work because it's allowed me to see me.
Right.
And so if you're thinking about it, try 1 or 2, find that close friend that you can share with and be really safe with, and start a little bit at a time and build up, because once you start seeing the power, it's so easy to scale it up.
Right. And now look where St. Vrain is now, with you guys using it in so many different facets.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, David. Really appreciate you taking the time again today. Hope to speak with you soon.
Thanks again, Daniel.
All right, bye.